Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Real friends, real situations, real life. Authentic chats from the heart to the gut. Two best friends keeping it raw, real, and relatable.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Once again, I am Jodi Greenblatt, and I'm with my lifelong friend, my bestie, Michal Offer, and we have known each other since we were 3 and 4 years old, respectively. We met we became much closer, I'll say, in high school in South Africa, and we both now live in the US. And if you've heard our previous podcasts, we have sometimes mentioned how our paths have crossed and meandered, and there have been times in between where we have not been in as much contact, is how I will say it, but we always come back together, and it's as if there's been no time between. And we always love seeing each other and talking. And here we are. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist turned relationship and empowerment coach for women who have been in toxic and unfulfilling relationships and who want to break those cycles so that they can date better and have better relationships and attract the right man for themselves, someone who loves, cherishes, and prioritizes them, the kind of love they've always wanted. And Michal is a nutrition and wellness coach, and you go ahead, Michal, talk about yourself.
Kalafa. My official title is nutrition consultant, and I create personalized and customized group and individual programs to help people really feel their best. So whether you're dealing with weight loss or whether you're dealing with illness or whether you simply want to optimize your life, I do it through diet and lifestyle modification. So in certain ways, our paths overlap. In certain ways, they might seem totally different, but we always have lots to talk about, and that's not all we talk about. And it's interesting because before we start recording, we always discuss, what we're going to talk about, and things always evolve. It never ends up being what we had originally thought. And it was interesting because we were talking about future guests on our podcast, and I had expressed some lack of trust for a certain potential guest, somebody that I knew, simply because of some of the relationships or lack of relationships or lack of integrity in relationships that they had had. And thus it had eroded my trust in them. And that brought us onto the subject of cheating.
Mhm.
And cheating is interesting because it is multifaceted, and you can cheat on yourself, you can cheat on your relationships, you can cheat on your diet. Cheating it can be defined any which way you want it to be. So I'm going to throw it to the therapist and say, define cheating.
Oh, that's a tough one. And I'm going to first say that people will define it differently. And so we're talking about cheating in relationships now, in romantic relationships. So there's the obvious physical, sexual cheating. But if you look at it through the lens of giving a partner, giving attention, energy, time, giving of themselves, their vulnerability to someone other than their partner. And there's the other aspect of without their partner knowing. If you're doing anything without your partner knowing, um, it is there's the reason that you can look at yourself and go, why are you not telling your partner? Something obviously inside of you knows this isn't going to be okay with your partner. That's going to fall under cheating as well. And um, yeah, that's basically those are the concepts I would look at, whether you are keeping it a secret and if you are giving your time, your energy, your attention away to somebody else where it belongs to something sacred between you and your partner.
So is it definitely to somebody? Could it be to something?
Are you think, well, when you say that, it makes me think about kind of cheating on a diet, cheating on, or do you mean something
I'm
in
going
a
to
relationship?
when you said giving of your time and your energy and those types of things, and also keeping it secret,
Mhm.
I think of something, the most obvious one to me would be pornography.
Mhm. Okay, so that I'm going to say, yes, it has those ele it's going to be problematic if you're doing it again without your partner knowing. And if your partner is not okay with you giving the time, energy, and attention to the
Consent.
pornography, the intent,
And,
yes,
and consent and
and
consent.
consent, exactly, exactly. Because over there, I'm going to say there are some couples that are okay with pornography.
Sure. I'm not
So
talking about it in that I'm talking about it in the defined context that you made, that you said.
yeah, yeah. Then I would call pornography cheating. Then I would call texting someone of, let's say, in a heterosexual relationship, someone of the opposite sex without your partner's knowledge and consent, and without your partner being okay with it, and giving of your time and your energy to someone else. Again, we're talking heterosexual, of the opposite sex, or if it's same sex, someone else of the same sex, anyone who your partner would not be okay with is and falls under my definition of cheating.
Okay. So
Certainly problematic. At the very least, if someone disagrees with that as a definition of cheating, it's problematic. Because why are you doing it without your partner's consent?
right. So then like and I'm talking like literally like things like gambling or spending money like like obsessively and compulsively and all the time. Those types of things.
Ah, if you want to call it cheating, is that what you're saying?
Mm.
I don't know if most would call that cheating, but it's certainly a problem because you are betraying your partner's trust. You are doing it without their knowledge. Um, that's addiction. What you're
Yeah,
talking about,
true.
addiction.
But
Hmm.
I'm wondering, and I'm just wondering, right? Is uh, would cheating could you add the word betrayal into cheating? And if you
Yes, betrayal.
add the word betrayal into cheating, then the stuff that I've brought up would fall under like, you're cheating on me with a computer screen, or you're cheating on me with a slot machine, right?
Giving
You're
attention
betraying,
away,
yeah,
giving your attention away, giving your time away, giving your
and
energy away, and betraying and doing it behind my back, non-consensual. I suppose you could then define it as cheating if you wanted to, if you wanted to go there with the semantics.
and the reason that I ask that is because people cheat for many reasons, and we can talk about the food stuff
Hmm.
in a little bit, but there's parts of cheating in relationships that relates to cheating with food, and I bring some of this up because there's an addiction component. There's an addiction component as well, but I digress. So why do people cheat?
There are several reasons, and I think most often people think it's purely for sexual reasons and sexual gratification. And yes, there will be some that cheat because they wanted a different sexual experience or because their partner wasn't providing them the kind of sexual experience they wanted. That will be a piece of it. And you'll often hear people saying that. I'm not going to say that's the primary reason. If I had to say the primary reason, I'm going to say you aren't getting your needs met by your partner and you're not communicating about it. So if there's something that you're not satisfied about in your relationship, whether it is um, division of labor, you feel like you're doing more than your partner's doing, whether you don't think you're getting enough attention, whether you don't feel connected. For women, that's a big one. Not feeling connected to their spouse or partner and not feeling seen, not feeling understood, not feeling heard by their partner. Those are big ones. So that you kind of lose that connection, lose that being in sync with each other, wanting to um wanting that connection again. And then that's why I add the piece of and not communicating about it, because with communication, if we are able to say something like, hey, I feel like we're drifting apart, can we do something about that so that I feel connected to you again? Wow, can you imagine just saying something like that? And then the two of you have a conversation about, well, what's bothering you? Oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Oh, what is it that you need? Should we start by just reconnecting and going on dates again? Is it something sexual that you want? Is it doing activities together? What will make you feel more connected? And you come back together again. The communication can repair that right then and there before somebody even looks outside the relationship. Communication is so key. And it's
But
difficult to do.
I was going to say, I, being the ultimate pessimist, I guess, was thinking of going and telling my partner, not me necessarily, but so telling the partner that they're feeling disconnected, and the partner going, "Why? Everything's fine."
That's why communication is so important. That's exactly why communication
If,
is
if
important.
they're shut down to it, that's a problem.
S- Still, communication is what can change that. And perhaps what you're speaking to is also if the partner still cannot communicate, then they have work to do on themselves to be able to have the conversation.
But that's a whole other part of this
That is a whole other part. I'm still emphasizing needs not being met and being able to communicate about it. So your needs not being met and not being able to communicate about it, I think is at the root of cheating.
Okay, so then I'm going to throw another question out at you. What about the person who serial cheats? And
Mhm.
besides cheating in one, like in one relationship multiple times, okay, needs not being met, we can go into that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in every single relationship, a person cheats.
Mhm.
That's not needs not being met anymore.
I hear you. And that is about that person needing to um, do some self-work and healing because something is going on that, see, I will still call it needs not being met, even if it is needs that are coming from a dysfunctional place. They're still seeking something that the partner, in this case, that the partner cannot give, is how I will say it. I'm saying the same thing as you. I would just say it a little differently. So it's still their needs not being met and not being able to communicate about it. But the need might not be something that the partner can even fulfill because it's something within themselves that they haven't healed, haven't some might call it trauma, and it can be big T trauma, or it can be micro traumas, needs that were not met as a child, for instance, that the person is subconsciously still trying to get met, and so is serial cheating. So, and this is why people who cheat say, I didn't intend to hurt you, because they often, I'm not saying all, because for everything I say, there are going to be exceptions. But often people don't intend to hurt their partner, but there is something that they haven't healed and need to get met. They keep seeking it elsewhere, outside. That's not going to heal it. And that's why the serial cheating keeps happening. If the person would stop to look at themselves, figure things out, um, actually, in my program, this is actually a part that can be healed in what I do because I do deal with the subconscious in some of the work that I do. So that's where some of it comes from serial cheating.
Okay, so we also discussed a little bit before we started recording that often men and women cheat for different reasons. And women tend to cheat because their emotional needs are not fulfilled. Not always, but if I've ever any woman that I know who has cheated, it has been and looking for
Emotional needs.
fulfillment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, not feeling connected, feeling unseen, not feeling desired, not feeling heard, not feeling understood. Those kinds of reasons is what you'll hear from women.
All of it. I mean, I have a very good friend right now who she has a lot of childhood trauma, like a lot, and she's done some work on it, not all, but she has had on and off a long-term affair with somebody for over 20 years. And kind of like our friendship, their affair
Human.
has come and gone. And it's a very interesting scenario
Mhm.
because she's no longer married.
Mhm.
She's been married to the same person the entire time.
He
And
has.
he
He's.
has.
Uh-huh.
Her marriage, when she originally cheated, her marriage was a not a good marriage, and it was one
Mhm.
of those situations where she was so dedicated to making this marriage work that it was very difficult for her to see that
Mhm.
the reason she was looking for this connection and fulfillment elsewhere was because she was not only were her needs not met in any way in the marriage, but she was being abused and
Oh,
traumatized
yeah,
in
you're
in the
gonna
marriage,
say.
not physically,
Yeah, yeah,
but
emotionally.
traumatized in the marriage. And she
Yeah.
talked about this person who she's having an affair with, who will never leave his wife for her, ever.
Mhm.
And that's something else I want to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, but how she's never felt more connected to anybody ever
Mhm.
in her life,
Mhm.
ever. And then they didn't speak literally for almost 20 years. And then they reconnected, and it's like you and me, right? It's like
Mhm.
nothing
Mhm.
has changed. But I say to, I mean, this is going into stuff we maybe shouldn't, but I say to her that part of the work that she has been doing on herself is learning to love herself and prioritize herself. And doesn't she deserve more, even on
Mhm.
an emotional level and on a connection level, than somebody who's never going to be able to make her number one?
Mhm.
And she will never be. She will always be his affair. He will,
Mhm. And she knows that. And she knows that.
and,
Yeah.
and she
And
knows
she's
that.
okay with it, it sounds like. It sounds like that's giving her fulfillment on some level.
On some level it's giving her fulfillment, but it's just it's interesting because in this case she cheated for emotional reasons, and from what I can understand, and I've had a, a very special window into their relationship. He has a very deep emotional connection to her too, but men don't usually cheat for emotional reasons.
Not as often. Not as often. If you go deep down, you might see some of that is there. But sometimes it's more sex driven, like actually the physical part, the need to be validated, the need to be needed. I think if you go deep down, you will still find a need for emotional connection in many men as well. Like feeling like their wife doesn't love them, doesn't care about them. And on some level, you will still often see, or I've often seen, connection being something they were seeking. They just seek it, and it looks more like sex that they're seeking. And yes, I will also say more in men than women have I seen that they've wanted to, that they've cheated in their words for the sex.
But men connect through sex, women connect through
That's right.
and emotions, right?
Yes,
We just
yes.
connect in
That's
different.
why the words I'm hearing sometimes sound more like it's for sex, but if you get down to it, it often still has an emotional piece to it. Men are still human. Men still experience emotions. We sometimes forget that because they don't show it in the same way. They're still wanting connection. They still want to be cared for. They still want to be validated. Um, you can still see similar needs to women. They just kind of get said in different ways.
Interesting. So then on the other side of the cheating coin, what does it say about the person who willingly and knowingly
Hmm.
allows someone to cheat with them or embraces someone cheating with them?
You're talking about the third party, the
I'm talking
third.
about, yeah. So the third party, I'm just going to use an example, right? The man knows the woman is married.
Uh-huh.
He he welcomes the relationship.
Okay. So human beings are very complex. And you know me, I don't speak in all or nothings. So again, I will say it really is going to depend on the situation. It will depend on the people. But I will speak to a common thread that I do see in that part about it. Because basically, you're talking about the third party who knows the person is in a relationship. So it's the kind of what you said talking about your friend, where they know they are not going to be the primary person. There is a level of emotional unavailability. I'll use that word because people tend to talk about emotional unavailability. There's a level of emotional unavailability, I'm going to say, in both parties, if that's occurring. Because think of it like this: if you know you're not going to be fully with that person, you don't have full vulnerability with that person. I know you're going to have vulnerability, yes, and in some sense, you might allow yourself greater vulnerability because you know they're not the person that is going to always be there, the person that could hurt you the most because they're the person you're in a relationship with. There's, said another way, there's almost a protection barrier, knowing you can never be with that person fully. Because when you're with someone fully, you can have an ideal relationship by being fully vulnerable. You can't be fully vulnerable if you're not just the two of you. And again, I'm going to say, set aside polygamy. I don't know enough about polygamy to speak to that. So it's you that lack, there is a piece of vulnerability that won't be there, that level of complete closeness and openness that you just will not ever get to because you are not just the two of you.
I've said
So
that, I've said that to my friend. I've told her that that she enjoys it so much because, and she feel like the connection is even feels even stronger for her because it's really, really safe. There is no risk for her whatsoever.
no risk. And why is there no risk? Because you're not with vulnerability, there's always risk. There's always risk. You are opening yourself up to the core, all parts of yourself, but you have this protection layer. If you know you can never be that with that person, they will always be married, not leaving their partner. You know you can get hurt at some point. I know it does that sometimes.
Oh, good.
Have you ever seen that happen before? It's the most
Yeah,
random thing. Sometimes if you make a certain hand gesture,
weird
an
thing.
emoji will pop up, a thumbs up emoji will pop up. Um, yeah, so on some level you are protecting yourself. Because getting in a relationship where you are completely vulnerable, where it's just the two of you and you are building a life together, think about what you have to go through differently as well. If you are living together and building a life together, you go through the daily trials and tribulations. Having an affair, you're not experiencing that. You actually don't have those hardships to have to face together, which is also a level of vulnerability.
Sure. All right, but I have a slightly different question to that.
Yeah.
And it's if I am okay, I'm just going to use me because it's easier. If I am choosing to engage in a inappropriate, whatever that might be, relationship with a man who is married,
Mhm.
I am choosing
Mhm.
to interfere for I'm choosing to interfere in whatever's going on in their marriage, right? If they're not communicating properly and he's reaching out to me, I have the right and the ability to say, sort your stuff out, and
Mhm.
then if you and then you can come and see me, right?
Yeah, sure, you can do that.
But what does
Yes.
it say about
That-
me if I'm willing, literally willing to possibly be a, a catalyst to end a relationship?
That's a moral question.
Yeah.
And I,
And
I
I'm
don't
asking.
Um, I I don't think that relates to the work that I do because I wouldn't make a
But
moral judgment.
I'm just asking about thoughts.
Just in general, my thoughts.
Yeah.
I would, me as a person, I would still answer it in terms of that person has their own stuff that they're dealing with, that this is working for them. I personally don't make moral judgments on people that do that, because this is working for them for whatever they're getting out of it or not getting out of it. And they have their needs and their issues that they're working on about it.
I'm not
Everyone.
I'm not talking about the person who's married. I'm talking about the
Yes,
person who's choosing to engage
yes,
in the relationship with the
yes.
person who's
So
married.
am I.
Okay, because you and I would then
Fast to say
disagree on that because
that.
I think that I'm gonna I think that there is in our society, so I have to think of my words carefully here.
Oh, that's fine.
In our society today,
Mhm.
the preciousness and the sanctity of our relationships, and that's all of our relationships, is
Mhm.
very undervalued
Yeah.
and very undervalued. And I believe that part of it is this, for lack of other words, attempted moral justification of implementing ourselves in the preciousness of somebody else's relationship before without giving them the time and the space to deal with it themselves. So if the man, let's say who I'm going to cheat with, doesn't want to deal with his stuff,
Mhm.
right? And right, that for me, and I'm just saying for me, he's not going to deal with his stuff. He's probably not going to deal with his stuff with me either.
Mhm.
So that in a way that doesn't bode well for my relationship with him. To think that he's going to leave his wife for me is probably very naive because statistics show that generally, and this is not always or never, but
Mhm.
generally men do not leave their wives. Women leave their husbands, women kick their husbands out, men
Mhm.
do not leave their wives. So,
Mhm.
right, putting
Mhm.
her in a situation where she kicks him out, is that going to make me the rebound, or is he just simply going to bring his garbage, like his baggage, into my relationship? So it in the moment, like the instant gratification of it, I can see that. The allowing yourself to become emotionally connected to that situation, again, it's a gray line. Like we choose all these steps along the way,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, if it's a hot and heavy one night stand, you might not know, but I'm talking about an affair as opposed to a
Mhm.
one night stand. I really struggle with the premise
Mhm.
that it's just everybody dealing with their stuff and it's okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? It's
So,
not okay.
so what you're saying is, it sounds like what you're saying has to do with a frustration with society's moral devolvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I
the sanctity of relationship and the okayness with cheating.
that it's become so commonplace, that it's become something we hear about all the time, that we're just seeing it as normal almost, that we're seeing it as not making moral judgment about it. I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. And I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's just that I get what you're saying. And I do see a lot of people still saying that. People do still have a problem with the interloper, the third party,
Both.
the
Both and. It's not one or the other. It's both.
both of them doing the cheating. Yeah. And people, I do see society taking a stand against the person who is the third party cheating. And I often see people going, I'm trying to describe it. So we got a husband or wife
use me, like you can use my example,
Okay.
me and a man who's married.
Okay. So people do blame you in this situation. Yes, that you are playing a part in breaking up the marriage. Um, but I do see people mostly looking at the man and going, he's the one. So this is the other side of the argument that I see. He's the one that has the responsibility towards his wife. You don't have the responsibility towards his wife. And that can be the difference because I think I'm going to make the argument that what you're saying is a different conversation, a different argument, because you're talking about society and morality and where does the blame lie? And
Oh, because we all choose, right? And if I'm choosing somebody, sorry to interrupt you, but if I'm choosing somebody who's emotionally unavailable on some level,
yeah, yeah,
right? Clearly I've got work to do.
yes.
Clearly,
All
and
three people in that scenario probably have work to do because
but
there's something
but
going on at every
I
level.
can tell you that the work between the husband and the wife isn't going to happen properly if I'm in the picture.
Correct, 100%. In
And
fact, you make a good point. It's actually allowing the husband, in particular, because he's cognizant of what he's doing,
yeah,
allowing him not to do the work because, in actual fact, it feels, in this example, it feels like he is resolving his dissatisfaction in life by being with you. Again, we're using the you as the example. So that's actually stopping him from even wanting to work on it because life's okay. I feel good when I'm with this person.
and then back to the responsibility thing, which we've discussed in many a podcast before as a community. And this is again the societal thing, but it comes back to that cheating has become normal, that
Commonplace.
not living in community has
Mhm.
become normal, and that we are devolving intellectually, emotionally, from that perspective as a species, simply because we're removing the fabric that has kept us together as a society. And I'm not saying you have to be monogamous. I'm not saying you have to be, I mean, I'm not saying you can't be polygamous. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying
Mhm.
the sanctity of whatever you choose your sanctimonious relationship to be,
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
sanctimony of that relationship. And whether it's my responsibility to take care of your relationship or not isn't the question. As part of society, it's all of our responsibilities to respect relationships. And that way you can respect your own relationships
Mhm.
as because I do believe for the most part the way you are in one area of your life is the way you are in every area of your life. And if you are disrespectful of relationships, you are
Mhm.
probably disrespectful of relationships, which can bring us later into the food thing. If we
Yeah, so just to clarify what you're saying, like even because I like that you kind of explained a little bit about it doesn't mean you can't you have any, people can be polygamous if they want, but even in polygamous relationships, there can be cheating because it comes down to consent
and
that we talked about.
outside of that outside
Mhm.
of that relationship, right?
Mhm.
It's you have your whatever the relationship looks like, there are boundaries that are set for that relationship. And
Mhm.
then even in a polygamous relationship there are boundaries. There are, right,
Mhm.
there might not be the same boundaries as you and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have.
but there's still boundaries or rules or expectations, discussions, things that you are consensual about.
Absolutely,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So just some
Or that term that you may have also heard, which encompasses polygamy and swingers, and uh,
that,
it's consensual non-monogamy.
yeah,
Yeah.
consent is different. Consent is a
Mhm.
boundary,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Consent
Ethical non-monogamy. Yeah. Yeah. And the
consent,
word ethical non-monogamy, so that brings us to your point about ethics and morals and I understand what you're saying that as people are devolving, relationships are devolving, community, which I think you and I both agree on, I often say we no longer have the village. We
yeah.
don't have this is this is a big problem in in a lot of areas. This makes me think about if we don't have the village anymore, what is the village creating? Community, what you call community, support. I actually think a marriage, a couple can have a hard time, even if they have a good relationship, their relationship can also struggle for lack of just general support and community. And I say that as an immigrant coming to this country. Yep. You and
I'm
all my all
I'm
my friends who have immigrated, and we know we have many of them,
yeah.
they all have struggled with not having support and recognizing the impact that that actually has on your marriage. You don't realize that having friends, having grandparents, the kind of support that it provides naturally for your relationship to survive and thrive and do well. And that's to your point about how important community is. And when we've lost that, now we've lost morality. And again, not to say that even in the day when we had community, that there was no cheating going on, but there was probably more, I'll say, support around it. So, for instance, if there was cheating going on in a relationship decades gone by, there was more involvement in the community to kind of to say, hey guys, what's up? How can we help you? How can we get your relationship back on track? We know that there's cheating going on. What can we do here? You have friends and family and community who cares enough to help you work it together. You don't see that anymore
Well,
as much.
may I share another story about
Love
another
to,
friend.
love to hear it.
I just think I like the stories because it's in real life, right? Like
Mhm.
real talk. It's interesting how society has worked and society has changed. So,
Mhm.
there was a couple who had been going through a very hard time for quite a while, and their communication had definitely broken down. They were not communicating. They were, for all intents and purposes, living separate lives.
Mhm.
And the husband, in some way, had justified the fact that he believed it with no proof. It's just he decided that his wife had cheated on him,
Ah,
and this gave him permission to cheat on his wife.
okay.
They hadn't had sex for a long time. That was his justification for
Yeah.
it. Whether that's true or not, that's simply how it was explained to me. And he
Okay.
went off and started quite an emotional and physical affair with a woman. The
Mm-hmm.
wife found out, and this really shocked the wife to the core. And she realized that one of the things she realized, and really kudos to her in some way, was that this wasn't him doing this to her. She was as much to blame for the situation
Wow,
he was. It
wow.
was the
Amazing.
two of them together.
Mm-hmm.
And she decided, she said, I'm not walking away from this marriage
Wow.
without doing absolutely everything that I can in
Mm-hmm.
order to save it.
Amazing.
She spoke to the husband about it, and he was still kind of sort of on the fence, to be honest. Wasn't really prepared to end the affair, but
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to end the marriage. Had threatened to end the marriage to the mistress, a court
Uh-huh.
mistress, and
Uh,
had made a whole bunch of plans with the mistress, but there was no plans to leave the marriage,
yeah.
like zero.
Yeah.
Which, as I said earlier, as it so happened, the the husband and the mistress had a lot in common, and they had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of mutual friends who were incredibly supportive of that relationship, which was crazy,
That
right?
happens. Oh,
To
that
me,
happens.
yeah, but to me, it was just a crazy scenario.
Yeah, it
Anyway,
happens.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't know the wife; they just knew the mistress better.
Mm.
Anyway, the wife ended up confronting the mistress
Mm-hmm.
and saying to the mistress, "Listen, I'm I'm focused on fixing my marriage. Please step back." It wasn't that, I'm sure it wasn't that nice. I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The mistress refused.
Mm.
And she said, no, he loves me. I'm fighting for my man. And interestingly, her entire community supported her in this. And it was a very interesting observation for me in what happened. Now, interestingly, she did a ton of work
Mm-hmm.
through osmosis caused him to do a ton of work.
Incredible.
And it took a long, it didn't take 5 minutes.
Of course, of course.
It took almost a year of
Yeah.
him not releasing 100% the relationship either.
Mm-hmm.
But she stayed committed. She said, I'm going to do this for my marriage. I'm going to try. She
Mm-hmm.
gave herself a deadline, and they have since done the work and resolved their issues.
Kudos to her.
And the mistresses, but my point is that number one, men don't leave their wives. Uh, no,
No,
because
it is true.
had he had every support and every opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and
Divorces are generally initiated by
by
women.
the wife, right? And how interestingly, even when from a lack of a better term, moral perspective, she knew what she was doing
Yeah.
was quite detrimental. The
Yeah.
supportive community
Yes. Yes.
allowed her to
Yes.
continue, not simply continue, but with such with added vigor, like added
Because
vigor.
I can see how that could make her not make her feel like she's doing the right thing.
It
When
was
you get to the point, you feel
good.
like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And to this day, it's
Hmm.
interesting, and this was many years ago. To this
Hmm.
day, as far as I know, the mistress still views herself as the victim in the situation. She
Hmm.
was the one that got screwed over by the husband.
Okay, that's a
Yeah,
whole
no, that's a whole bunch of other
that's
issues.
a
Just
whole other story.
interesting.
Like
Yeah,
I said, people will cheat and people will be that third party interloper
with their
because they have their own stuff to deal with. So that's there.
absolutely. This
The
as a
wife that
interesting.
looked at this and said, I'm going to do everything I can to make this work, and I'm going to deal with this by speaking to my husband and speaking to the woman that he's having an affair with and asking her to step aside is bold, is courageous, is mature, and the amount of work that it takes to work on yourself, period. Work on yourself knowing that your husband isn't doing the same work and that you don't know where this is actually going to lead to, but she probably knew, but I will still come out of this stronger and better with the work that I do. That takes a lot of emotional maturity, and kudos to her.
Sure. But also we say no regrets, right? And I'm sure you deal with it a lot in many of your courses, is, a lot of times women don't leave relationships
Mhm.
because of the what if it gets better? What if it
Yep,
gets better?
yep,
Well,
yep.
what have you done to make it better? What have you done? And if there's nothing, if there is no more that you can do to make it better, then
Mhm.
it's time to let it go.
Mhm.
And I think in this case, that was probably the scenario. I didn't do anything to make it better. The woman was saying to herself, right? I didn't do anything to make it
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
In effect, she made it worse. So how can she say like that she didn't destroy her own marriage if she didn't even try and save it?
You mean that thought process being the then catalyst to I'm going to do everything I can.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. And just a couple of thoughts about that is sometimes people don't know what to do. So I hear your point. You're absolutely right about doing everything you can to save a marriage.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know what that is.
That's why
Sometimes
they make you. Seriously. If you don't
yeah,
know what to do,
yeah,
look around,
yeah,
and we have enough resources around us today. Gosh, you could just ask ChatGPT. You
yeah.
get
Yeah.
something.
It's funny you say this because I want to say it was this morning, if not this morning, as recent as yesterday, but I think it was this morning how I was thinking about just a couple of years into my marriage. So we're talking many years ago. I was not satisfied. I was not happy. And I not happy in my marriage, but always been happy as a person. Wasn't happy in my marriage. And we went for couples counseling. And the therapist just said, no, you guys are doing fine, and sent us off our way. And I think about moments like that where see, I was in my 20s. I was a new therapist at that point, and um, not very much into newlywed, so to speak,
Yeah.
not long into the marriage. So I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I needed to do to improve the marriage. I didn't know what I needed to work on. And I went to someone who just told me, you guys are doing kind of okay. So it's like, oh my gosh, when I look back, I'm like, she was not hearing us.
No,
She
no.
was making, the other thing that I think was happening there, she was making her own, and this is why me, Jodi therapist Jodi, as somebody calls me, it's the same, it's hard for me to separate being a therapist when I'm myself and being myself when I'm a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
I, I, I cannot make, it's just not natural to me to make moral judgments because I think that's what that therapist was doing. She was making her own determination on whether she considers this to be a good enough marriage, and so was sending us on our way,
Yeah.
not hearing us, not giving us the tools we needed. So just all circling around to, sorry, that literally just, I was just thinking about that. I think it was this morning, which has made me
Interesting.
say that story. But the point being, people don't always know. And um and we're all human beings. This is the this I think is a huge thing I've come to live by, which might seem obvious. So I'm sorry for those who think, yeah, it's obvious. Um, we are all human beings. We are all doing the best we can. We don't know everything. We don't have a rule book. We don't know what we don't know. And we can all just do the best we can. And like you say, use your resources, use your support, use friends and family, community, professionals to do the best you can.
And keep
Yeah,
searching. And I'll say that in my line of work, you have no,
yeah.
and not what we're talking about, but you have no idea how many times people tell me they don't feel right. They feel sick. They feel tired. They feel this. They go to the doctor and the doctor says, there's nothing wrong with you. You're crazy.
It's the exact same. Yes, you were describing the exact same thing, but on a physical
on,
level.
on what goes on in my world
Yeah.
that nobody's listening, that simply because you fit what we consider normal on a
Hmm.
chart, and normal doesn't mean normal means average. That's what the word normal means. It
Right,
means average, and simply
right.
because you fit in with average,
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
something wrong. No, there's just something wrong with your brain. Like get over yourself.
Yeah.
None of us are average. We all sit here or there. None of us, very few of us, sit exactly in that middle of average.
There's
We're
so many individual
somewhere.
differences, is what you're saying. Human beings are complex and there are so many factors.
Absolutely. And for anybody who's watching this, or anybody that you know that needs something, reach out to them and tell them don't stop looking for answers, because the answers are out there. You just haven't found the right the right avenue yet. And
Correct.
the conventional ways to look for things are not working for us efficiently anymore. We don't know if they ever really did, but for now, they're not working anymore. The same way as traditional therapy might not work. Your therapist might say, you have a very average marriage. It's fine. It's fine to be unhappy. You know what?
Mhm.
Find a coach. That's a new thing. That's something different. Work on some things that can make your marriage phenomenal, not just average, right? Who wants average? I don't want to be average. You don't want to
Mhm.
be average.
And that is what I love about coaching. And
Yeah,
what took me from therapy to coaching is that I have freedom to do more of of using everything I know as a person,
yes.
and not only what I'm the narrow path to stick to with what I know and am allowed to use as a therapist. And this is what took me here because I know I have more to offer as a coach. I do both. I'm a therapist and a coach, but I have more to offer differently as a coach. Mikhail, I'd love for us to talk some more. Maybe we continue this another time. This has been
Yeah,
fabulous
this
talking
has
about
evolved.
this.
This has evolved really wonderfully. And I want to talk about food because there's a food connection here that is
Mhm.
important. So maybe we should do part two next time.
Yes, yes.
stay tuned. Tune in next time, people. And
Yes.
I'm going to bring this in away from well, it'll still be emotional health, but we're going to connect it even more to your physical health.
Yes, I would love to. Let's talk about that next week.
Yes.
And please drop in the comments below what your thoughts are about cheating, what your experiences are. We would love to hear about it. Share this episode with a friend who knows and would benefit and would enjoy hearing what we talked about regarding cheating. I know it's a controversial subject, and we'd love to hear your views.
It's a big one. All right, Jodi, always a pleasure. And
Always.
I'm really looking forward to part B. This is exciting.
Sounds good. Bye. See you next
Everybody,
time.
see you soon.